right. So coming down for stretch. We're going to come into a seated position first. Just let the feet come out in front and hands just onto your knees. So we can get some more movement into our spine if you've not done Pilates already. We're going to come into a seated position and start by lengthening the spine. So we're going to pull up through the top of the head. Tucking the chin so your eye gaze is forward. Now, as your body's in this nice upright position, we're going to try and keep the length in the upper back and just take a little tuck under with the tailbone and feel like you're pressing your belly button through towards the spine and then pulling the head back up to the ceiling. So again, it's just a really subtle movement, and this is to get a stretch here, just below your bottom rib. Now sometimes when we're tight there, we just round into the upper back. So have a feeling that you're pulling the head up to the ceiling as you press the belly button through towards the spine. And it's almost like you're getting the hip bones to just tilt back and point up towards your rib cage. Okay, from there, once you've got that little tilt, tuck under a little further, roll down through the spine, and then come forward and lift through the crown of the head. Tailbone first, C-shape your spine, and then come forward and lift. Breathing through the nose, and use the out breath to come forwards. So just give me a couple more here. And again, trying to feel each vertebrae moving. Scoop under, and then roll back. Going forwards. Now this time I'm going to come all the way down to the floor. So you scoop under with the bottom first, and roll down through each vertebrae. Let the hands slide down now by your thighs. Align the head to rest. Let the arms come above the shoulders. We're going to start to circle the arms. Give myself some space. The arms reach back overhead. You bend both elbows and pull the elbows down towards your ribs. So when you circle the arms, turn your palms up towards the ceiling and let the arms sink down to the floor. It's like you're trying to just squeeze into the shoulder blades as you draw the arms back. So let the arms glide along the ground, or maybe they're just hovering for now. But just start thinking about the ribs a little. And gently hold the rib cage down. Because sometimes we try and take the arms further by arching into the back. The more we try and keep the back of the ribs down on the floor, the more movement we can bring into the chest and the shoulders. So we can do a little bit more work into the chest and the shoulders first. So this time, as you circle the arms back, let the arms just rest on the floor in line with your shoulders. Your palms towards the ceiling. Roll your knees over to the right. Extend your left leg. Just gently push your left leg across. This back arm lifts off the floor and then come back down to the ground. So you're sliding your foot, your hip, and then the back arm lifts. Breathe out as you push your toes away. And then take a breath in as you ease back. Now you can try and lift the arm a little higher. So rather than the hand being in line with your shoulder, it's up in line with your ear. And then as you push your toes away from your fingers, hopefully feel a much more deeper stretch across the front of the chest and the shoulders. And we're going to give these chest muscles a nice stretch today. Because when you've got tight muscles through the front of the chest and the shoulder, it can completely change the position of the shoulders, and in turn that completely changes our upper body posture. So give me one more, push it across to your right, with that left foot. Then come back into the centre, bend the knees, bring the knees back into the centre, circle the arms again, breathe in, lift them, hold the ribs down, breathe out, pull the elbows down to the ribs. Now you might notice your left hand, your left arm, is getting a bit close to the ground. We've got a better stretch and release through the front of the shoulder. So let's go with 2 more circles, and let's try and bring that same feeling into the right hand side this time. So arms stay wide, shoulders roll back, palms to the ceiling, knees roll to your left, right leg extends, breathe in, As you breathe out, just slide your foot away like you're reaching as far as you can into your toes. Now by pushing your toes away, it's going to naturally lift the back hand off the floor. Starting with the hand in line with the shoulder. And if you're not feeling enough of a stretch there, then you can take the hand a little bit higher. So it's almost in line with your ear or the crown of your head. Now don't think about picking up the right hand. Just let it hang down to the floor. And that's what's going to create a stretch into the front of the shoulder. Breathe in as you ease back, and then breathe out to push away. And give me a couple more. Just relaxing and melting back down to the shoulders, and then pushing away through the toes. And then resting. Bending the top knee, bring the feet together, knees into the centre. Breathe in, lift the arms, and again just circle the arms around. So hopefully you're feeling now both shoulders feel like they can move a little easier. There's less resistance coming through the front of the chest. Or maybe you notice that your ribs are staying down a little bit easier. Give me one more circle. And then let the arms stay above your shoulders. From here, both shoulders down to the floor, and then press your right hand up, and then your left. Now as you push your hand up towards the ceiling, we're actually trying to get behind the shoulder blade. So as you push one hand up, try and push the opposite shoulder down. And again, you might notice you get a little bit further each time. And one more on each side. And then bend your elbows, bring your hands to the top of the shoulders. You're going to breathe in, open both elbows, let the ribs flare. And then breathe out, squeeze back into the middle. So as you open the elbows, you're allowing the ribs to open up. Actually, where's the camera's not best angle there, is it? Put a bit on, that's better. So again, as you breathe in, squeeze the shoulder blades together. So it opens the front of the chest and the shoulders, it lets the ribs flare, and as you breathe out, just gently pull the belly button back towards the spine. Breathe in as you open, and breathing out to close. A couple more. And now I've got a nice release into the chest. We're going to circle the elbows, so just circle the elbows around. Again, as you're circling the elbows, try and keep a little connection through your core. So you're holding the ribs down in place, and you're just letting those elbows move, taking them wide, making them bigger each time. And then this time, reverse direction. So start small, as if you're drawing circles with your elbows, and then going a little bit bigger. Breathing in, letting it go, and 2 more circles here. Now you can let the hands rest either out wide or down by your thighs, whichever feels most comfortable. With the feet now, the feet hip distance, let the knees roll to the right and then over to the left. Now as we're rolling the knees, we want to keep the back of the ribs, the head and the shoulders in place. Let the knees roll across the heels. And just letting that movement come through the waist. Feel the movement of the hips. And breathe out each time the knees sink to the floor. And a couple more each way. Now I've got some movement coming into the hips. We're going to settle in the centre. So as we settle in the centre and changing into positions, you're going to bring your right knee above your hip. Let your left knee slightly point out to the side. Circle your left knee. So the knee itself moves around your hip socket. Pulling the knee in towards the chest and then pushing the knee away. Making it as big or as small as you comfortably can. Trying to keep the left knee still and the pelvis still. So again, just mobilising the right hip. As you come into the centre this time, keeping the knee above the hip and then go the opposite way around. Starting small and then going a little bit bigger as you feel ready. The whole time you're trying to keep your shin parallel to the ceiling. So you're not letting that foot drop. So you're pushing and pulling and keeping the stability to that left hand side. So much to think about. And then we're going to stay in the centre. So knee staying at 90. Breathe in, lower your knee out to the right and then pull it back into the centre. So we start to bring a little bit more stretch into the inner thigh. As you lower your knee to the right, don't let the pelvis roll to the right. Again, we're trying to keep the pelvis anchored because that's where the muscles attach. So the more you keep the pelvis still, the more we're going to stretch the muscles. Helps to push that left hip ever so slightly down to the floor. Still thinking about a little connection to our core. So softly drawing the belly button towards the spine, which is going to help to keep the ribs, the hips and the spine nice and still. One more time. And then you can place your foot down. Change sides. So let the right knee go to about 5 past the hour, so it just gives you the space for your left knee to move. Pelvis is still, so anchor your left hip. Start with small circles. Now as you're circling the leg, you're trying to keep the pelvis still. So the knee is moving around your hip socket and you're not letting your pelvis rock from side to side. So there's a little bit of core connection required at the same time to keep the hips in place. Going a little bit bigger if you can. Again, just feel that movement and ability coming around the hip. Then stay into the centre and reverse. Start small. See how still the pelvis is. Gently draw the belly button towards the back to keep the ribs in the back and the hips still. And then see if you can make the movement a little bit bigger. Do that with the left hip. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Keeping that right knee still. And then staying in the centre. Knee drop over to the left and back in. Breathing in, just feeling a gentle stretch on the inner thigh. And then breathing out to pull back to the middle. And the whole time, keeping the right knee in place. Also thinking about the ribs. Because again, sometimes we're a little bit restricted through the hip. The ribs will lift to allow us to go a lot further. When the ribs lift, the hips tend to rock as well. So think about the pelvis anchored, the ribs holding down. Breathing in as you lower the knee and using that out breath to come back into the middle. 2 more here. And your last one. So we're going to place the feet down. We're going to bring the feet together, so the edge of your feet are together. Head and shoulders are rested. Hands down by the thighs. We're going to push the hips up and push the knees out wide and then come back down and close the knees. So at the bottom, the feet, the knees are together. At the top, you push the hips up and then open the knees and then lower. Now as you're pushing it with the hips, just try and keep a little bit of control with the upper abdominals, so you're not over-flaring through the ribs. Breathe in as you lower the hips down, out to push and open. And when you open the knees, again, just a little engagement through your core, and then pushing the knees out as wide as you comfortably can. And then let's stay at the top and pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come down and go up again. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And lower down to the floor. Bring the feet a little bit wider, so they're back to being hip distance. Slide your hands forward, lift the head and shoulders, and just gently reach from one foot to the other. Now as you're reaching from one foot to the other, you're trying not to let the hips or the knees rock. Look down the arm. Press the tailbone gently into the ground. So if you give me 2 more on each side, and then take your back foot, so the one furthest away from your screen. Take a hold of your back foot. Roll to the front so you can still see your screen and let the underneath arm reach outwards. Keeping a hold of the foot, you're going to try and pull the knee slightly back. At the same time as you're pulling the knee back, gentle squeeze at the bottom and thrust the hip forward. Breathe in, relax the hips. Breathe out, push forward. So just relaxing your bottom and then squeezing your bottom to thrust the hip forward so it brings more release into the hip flexors. Breathe out as you squeeze the bottom, breath into release. Now once more, keep the hip gently pushing forward and see if you can bring your foot back down onto the floor. Roll then onto your back shoulder. Let the shoulders and the ribs rest. If that feels too much, just stay in the sideline position, pushing forward with the hip. And if you're getting the back of the ribs and that back shoulder down, again, let's use the squeeze of the bottom. Squeeze the bottom and push the hip forward, and then let it relax back to the floor. So again, by squeezing your glutes, it sends a signal to the hips, the hip flexors, to relax the muscles so the glutes can engage more. So getting both muscles working together. Give me 3 more little squeezes and a release. 2, 1, and rest. Bring the knees back into the centre. Tuck in the chin again. Lift the head and the shoulders and just take that little reach from side to side. Pushing the fingertips down towards the ankles and looking past the shoulder, past the arm. Looking down towards the ankle each time. So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to use the opposite foot this time. So it's your front foot. You're going to roll, face the back, extend your underneath arm. So you're lying on your side. You're thrusting the hip forward, so gently squeezing your bottom and then releasing. Squeeze the bottom, push the hip forward and release. Now the knee at this point might be pointing up to the ceiling. So we're going to try and bring the knee down so the knee's in line with your hip. Breathe out, squeeze the bottom to push the hip forward. Give me a couple more little releases here. And then if you want to deepen the stretch, you're going to pull your foot back to the floor and roll onto your back shoulder. Now again, once you're here, you're then going to use the bottom, squeeze the bottom and push the hip forward. And again, it just opens the hips in a slightly different position. You might not need to squeeze the bottom, just being in this position might be giving you enough of a stretch here. If you want to deepen the stretch, that's where you squeeze the bottom and try and gently push the hip forward and upwards. Breathe out with each little squeeze and the breath in as you release. And go with 4 and let it go. So it's quite good for the glutes as well, you're getting them to work independently, giving them a nice strong squeeze to find that hip drive. And then resting in the middle. Bring both knees back into the centre, feet back to being hip distance apart and hands by your hips. Roll back up through your spine, keep the hips high, squeeze your bottom. Now keep the squeeze in your left hand side. Relax your right so your hip drops and then squeeze back up. So relax the right and then squeeze back up. So you're just getting that little bit of rotation with the pelvis. A constant squeeze in the left to keep the hips nice and high. Breathing in each time you drop the hip and breathing out to push back up. So this also creates a little bit of mobility and movement into the SI joint, into the pelvis and the lower back. There's not a lot of movement available there, so it's just trying to get a little bit of movement into that hip. And change side, keep the hip up, drop the left hip down and then push back up. The whole time you're squeezing your left buttock to keep that left hip nice and high. And again, 5, up, 4, 3, 2, and your last one. In the centre, roll back down through the spine and hug both knees in towards your chest. From here we can come into our pixie rolls. So you're tucking your chin, cross your feet, roll forward, and then uncross your feet. And then you swap feet, opposite one coming in front. Breathe in as you roll back. And as you come forward, hands to the floor, and ease yourself forward. Don't just let it go flim. So it's a nice way to mobilise the spine. As you roll back, tuck in the chin. And if you don't like the pixie rolls, you can just stay with that first move we did at the very beginning, just that gentle roll back. Breathe in, out, come forwards. Once more on each side. And the next time you come forward with your right foot in front, hopefully, we can stay and then we change position. So as you come into this seated position, hands wide, and we're just going to bend from side to side. Now we're trying to bend the spine rather than the arms. Make the arm long and strong and feel like you're pressing your hand down to the floor. At the same time, keeping your hips anchored down to the ground. So just notice your pelvis isn't rocking from side to side. Push away into your fingers. Breathe out, press the palm down to the floor. Once more on each side, because it always feels nice, just that one. And then we're going to bring some attention to our hamstrings. When you're ready, bring your legs forward. Feet hip distance apart. And let's go for a little swim. You might want to pull the sit bones back first, so it helps to anchor your pelvis. And then we're just going to take a little swim. Now, as we push the fingertips forward, we want to feel that we've got some rotation coming through the upper body as well. So try and twist, look to your left, and then look to your right. Keep sliding your fingertips towards your toes. And give it 2 more on each side. And then with your last one, both arms. Pull the arms back, reach them up, over, turn your palms to the ceiling, drag the hands back. So as you pull back, turn your palms up, feel the spine, tuck in your chin. Draw the belly through towards the back. Give me 2 more here. And your last one. From here, hands by the hips, take your legs wide. Turn your shoulders back, so you turn your fingertips towards the back of the room. Pushing your fingertips into the floor and lifting your chest up as high as you can. Try and encourage the back of your knees down to the ground, so get the stretch into the hamstrings. Keep this left hand anchored and bring your right arm forwards. Now glide forward and take a little lift of the arm. As you glide forward and lift the arm, let your chest stay lifted and let your eye gaze lift. And then hopefully you feel a little bit more stretch in the inner thighs and the hamstrings. They're stiffening up a little. Breathe out through the mouth and a breath in as you ease back. Give me 2 more. And your last one, hold in here. Bring the hand down, bring your left hand around, push the hands into the floor so you're getting your chest up nice and high. And then from there, you can gently rock forward, or you might want to just lean into the hands and stay. If you want more, just bend the elbows like you're trying to lower the forearms and the elbows down to the ground. Because sometimes what we do is keep the arms straight and we end up trying to round the back. So it's keep feeling like you're lifting the chest and keeping that length in the back as you lower your chest forwards. Twice more. And one last time. And then stay. From here, bring both feet into the centre, bend your knees. So roll into your right. So we're going to circle with the upper body. So one hand, your left hand onto your ankle, right hand by your thigh, bring your nose forward, slide it to your ankle, and then left. So again, you're moving your upper body. You're keeping your right knee pressing down into the floor. And as you glide your nose towards your ankle, hopefully starting to feel more stretch into that right hip, sorry. Breathe in as you ease down, and on the lift. 2 to go. And then your last one. And this time, stay in the centre. Bring the hands further forward, and again, bend the elbows and try and lower your chest towards your shin. Now as you're lowering, try and keep that length in the back, so we don't just want to round the upper back and lower the head. feel like your weight shifts forward and lowers. And again, bend the elbows as you shift your weight forward. Breathing as you ease down. Out breath to push up. And once more. And then come back into the centre. Walk the hands in. Bring the feet back. Take the legs out straight. And let's go for a swim again. Just turning your chest from side to side. Maybe you're noticing now the hips are getting a little bit looser. The hamstrings are getting more stretched. So maybe the hands slide a little further past your toes. Breathing out every time you reach forwards. Trying to turn that upper body so we're feeling the rotation at the same time. Once more each side. Both arms this time, big breath in, reach them up. Throw the arms forward and then pull back. And as you pull the hands back, try and turn your palms up to the ceiling. And feel that restacking of your spine. And maybe notice the hands go a little further forward. And one more time. And then staying back in the centre. Turn your fingertips to the back, lift your chest up, take your legs wide, keeping your right hand anchored this time. Left arm comes forward, glide and lift. Now just checking on your feet, sometimes the feet tend to roll in to make it easier. Try and keep the knees and the toes pointing up towards the ceiling. And then breathe out, let your eye gaze come up with your hand. And that's going to help to encourage extension all the way through the back as well. Feel your weight physically rocking forwards. 2 to go. Your last one. And bring the hand down. Bring that right hand around. Push the hands into the floor so you're lifting that chest up. Then lean, let your weight come forward, you bend your elbows. So avoid bending the back. You can almost imagine you've got a pole stuck at the back of your t-shirt and it's keeping that back really straight as you hinge forwards. Checking on the feet again, they start to roll inwards, try and get them pointing up towards the ceiling. Breathing out through the mouth every time you rock forwards. That feels a little bit nice. I think it's only me ever likes this one. And your last one. And then resting. Bring the knees in. Roll the knees up to your left. So as you roll the knees to the left, both knees are still at 90 degrees. One hand on the foot, one hand just above the knee. Bring your nose down to your knee and then glide across towards your ankle. Again, the nice long back all the way through. So you get the feeling you're pushing your heart forward. And you're pressing your left knee down to the floor at the same time. Breathing in as you lower. And on the way up. And once more. And this time, bring the hands to the floor, slightly forward if you can. Push the chest forward and lift the ribs. Bend your elbows, let your body weight rock forward. So feel like you're pushing yourself forward rather than down. And pressing the left knee still down into the ground. Breathing out through the mouth. And a couple more. Let's get nice loose hips. And resting in the centre. So bringing both legs back into the centre here. Bring your feet together. So you're going to make a diamond with the knees. You're going to push the knees out. Hands just above your ankles. Pull up through your chest if you can. Pull the heels back. If you can't and you're here, it's fine. Rest your elbows on your thighs and try and encourage the knees outwards. A little connection through your core. If you can go deeper, bring the heels back as far as you comfortably can. And again, you can rock forward if you want to. It's a lot more comfortable on the mat. Rocking forwards and back. And again, as you rock forward, you can try and push the knees out at the same time. Or you might want to just hold onto the feet. Breathing out every time you hinge forward. So it's also helping to relax and stretch into the lower back. But again, we're trying to target those inner thighs, so try and press the knees down towards the floor if you can. And 2 more. And then rest. So when you rest, you're going to release the feet, bring the feet out wide, and then we're going to come onto all fours. So if you bring your body weight forward, hands underneath the shoulders and knees underneath the hips, we're looking to stretch the front of the chest and the shoulder here. So your left hand, push it into the floor so you feel quite strong through your left shoulder. Reach your right arm out as far as you can to the side. And then bring it to the floor and try and walk your fingertips a little further forward. Let your right shoulder now drop down to the floor, but push into your left hand and try and straighten the left arm. So you're trying to let your right shoulder drop and push your left shoulder up. And then you turn your head and you're going to look over the left hand side. Maybe walk your right hand a little further away again. Keep letting the right shoulder drop down to the floor. Turn the head a little bit more if you can and press into your left hand. Almost slide the hips back towards your left heel. Press your right fingertips into the floor and slide the hip over to the left. And you keep pressing your fingers down, trying to pull the hip to the left and get a nice deep stretch across the front of your shoulder and the front of your chest. Keep turning the head because that also helps to deepen the stretch. And then come back into the centre when you're ready. Hands under the shoulders. Take the left arm out. Reach across, so your body weight rocks over to the left a little. Press your fingers into the floor and then you're almost pulling that left shoulder back in and easing it down to the ground. Once you've got the stretch in your chest, you can simply straighten your right arm to try and get the stretch deeper. So as you straighten the right arm, it's pushing that right shoulder back and letting your left shoulder sink down to the floor. Now grip the floor with your fingertips and slide the hips over towards your right heel. So the hips push across. You keep pressing your fingertips down at the same time. You're breathing in through your nose and then breathing out to slide back and across with the hips. Press down with your fingertips, it really makes a big difference. And then turn the head a little bit more if you can to your right hand side. And then when you're ready, bring both hands back into the centre. Into a calf stretch from here, taking your right leg back onto the ball of your foot. You're going to slide your weight back and then push forward. Slide back and push forward. It's like you're trying to get the heel down the ground. Again, it won't quite get there, but just get a nice stretch into your calf and pushing away through the ball of your foot. And a couple more on this side. And changing legs. So bring the knee in this time. Take the opposite leg back, push onto the heel, and then push off the ball of your foot. Breathing in each time you slide back. And really push down through the ball of the foot to push yourself forward. So you're kind of making the muscle work harder once it's stretched. 3, 2, and 1. Both knees come in under the hips. From here, pull your hips back to your heels. And then push your chest forward and let your back arch. So your tailbone tucks, hips pull to heels, and then chest pushes forward and eye gaze lifts. Chin tucking in, chest pushing forwards. Breathing out as you sit the hips back. Breathing in to pull back. And a couple more each way. Always lovely to get the spine moving. And now a little bit more work for your calves. Sit the hips back, let the knees lift this time. When you're ready, press back towards the heels, push the heels towards the floor, and lift your bottom up to the ceiling. That in itself should be giving you a stretch into your calves, maybe your hamstrings too. And then we're going to walk the feet. Press into your hands to keep the shoulders, the head and the ribs still, and then alternate your foot pedals. So one heel lifts and the opposite heel lowers. And pressing down evenly into both hands. And you've got that feeling of trying to really lift your bottom upwards towards the ceiling. Couple more each side. And then this time, lift both of your heels. Lift them up and press the heels back to the floor. Up and release. It's a little bit calf work, but a really nice stretch at the bottom as you try and anchor the heels into the ground. Give me 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend both knees and then step your feet forward. So the feet come to hip distance, fingertips by your toes, head hangs, and legs takes over. Did miss the down dogs, love. I'm too late. Too loud. Draw the belly to the spine. Let the head feel heavier and sink down towards the floor. Little bend into the knees. Let the arms hang. Start to scoop under with your tailbone and then just re-stack up through your spine. And as you re-stack the spine, the head lifts, the shoulders roll back and then melt right down. And then a nice big circle with the arms. So again, opening the chest, pulling the elbows down to the back of the ribs, and maybe notice your shoulders are moving a lot easier after those nice deep chest stretches. Oh, mine certainly are. Go a little lighter. And once more. And then let those shoulders just simply rise and fall. And again, rise and release. And applaud yourselves. Very well worked. Feel all light and floating out.